Hey everybody, Pastor Bret here. Happy New Year. We got a message for you today called In Steps the Vine Dresser. It's about Jesus and how he can intervene in our life, and we can go from being completely fruitless like this little fig tree to amazingly fruitful, all by engaging with him and letting him do the work in our lives for us. So check it out. Press, what are those buttons? Subscribe or like, pass it on. Anyway, be blessed. See you soon. The title of today's message is In Steps the Vine Dresser. It is a word for the new year. And I touched on this verse about a year ago, but this time it's getting a whole sermon. It's that powerful. And I really feel like it's that personal. It's for us. Luke 13, 6 through 9, Jesus told this parable. He said, a man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard. So imagine, step into the text, there's a vineyard. What grows in a vineyard? Grapes, vines, fruit. And in the vineyard, he had a fig tree planted. And he came to check it out, to see the fruit, look for fruit on it. He was seeking fruit on it, and he didn't find any. And he said to the vine dresser, the one who took care of the vines and the fruit and the orchard, he said, look, for 3 years now I've come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and I find none. Cut it down. Just seems like we should pause right there. He said, why should it use up the ground? It's taking up space. It's taking up sunlight. It's taking up nourishment. Why should it use up the ground? And he answered him, sir, let it alone this year also, until I dig around it and put on manure. Then if it should bear fruit next year, booyah, good. He said, if it should bear fruit next year, well and good. That's what he really said. But if not, you can cut it down. He's saying, give me a year. Just give me another year, master. I'll take care of it. He said 2 things I got to do to take care of it. One is I'm going to dig around it. And the other one is I'll fertilize it. I'll put stuff around it. King James says, I shall dig it and I shall dung it. Dig about it and dung about it. We'll come back to that. But this tree has been in the same condition for 3 years. The same fruitless condition. That's pitiful. Big old fruit tree, or it's little, but bless you, and it's green. Should have fruit by all accounts. It's planted in the right place, but it's got nothing. It's planted in good soil because it's in a vineyard. And a farmer who had the tree planted knows where to plant in order for a crop or an orchard to bring forth abundant fruit. Would you agree, Emily? Yes. Okay, that's good, because God said. So he knows where to put it. And that's what he wants to get out of it is fruit. And farmers are so good, they even do crop rotation. Have you heard of that? Where they'll plant this part here, and maybe they'll leave it alone for a season or plant a different crop there because different crops pull different soil, nutrients out of the soil. Anyway, they know what they're doing is my point. Now, imagine with me that you're the tree. Somebody say, I'm the tree. I know you're with me. Okay, now you're the tree, and God has planted you for a great production, for abundant harvest, for multiplication. I had a great example that I just wanted to share with you because I think it's a visual that has always stuck with me. I don't know if you guys remember Dave Spray, but he used to come here for a while. He and his wife Barbara, wonderful saints. They've been ministers a long time in specifically with healing and deliverance. That was their thing. They had house church for a few years. They came here just on fire, just powerful prayer warriors, God's ambassadors for sure. And one time Dave was telling me about this lemon tree that he had, just like this parable. He goes, the thing that we got no lemons. And he kept laughing. I go, why are you laughing? Because the next year, he said, we had a prayer party over that thing in the backyard, and we held hands and laid hands. We prayed on that tree and spoke the word over it. And he showed me what he got. Now, first off, I have a picture of a lemon, a good-sized, normal lemon. Go ahead and show that one, Debbie. That's a lemon, okay? It's actually a pretty good-sized lemon, but this isn't what he found on his tree the next season. The next season, after nothing, I'm telling you nothing, back up, zoom out, and compare that is the lemon. That lemon. And this is here. This picture was taken right here because he had that little table and tablecloth over there just for a demonstration. That thing was as big as Dave's head. I couldn't find the picture for you today, and Dave's gone home to be with the Lord, so I couldn't call him and ask him, but he had this picture of the lemon next to his head, and it was just amazing. It wasn't just one lemon. The whole tree was weighed down. It's such a great testimony and a great story of the power of prayer and when the people get together. So that's legit. It relates to our message today. But when we're the tree, thanks, Debbie. when we're the tree, first off, we know we don't get to choose the soil. Would you agree with that? Where were you born? Yell it out. See? Did you choose to be born there? No. I didn't choose to be born in Ohio in the United States of America, or to be transplanted as a boy to California. It's just where I found myself as I began to grow up. Now, I love my family. I love my parents. My mom is here. Where's Papa? He's around here. But I never chose them. And they never chose me. My dad was best man at our wedding. And I remember him saying, we can't choose our family. But if I could, he said, I would have chosen the family. He was counting his blessings publicly and just wanted everybody to know how blessed that he felt he was for his family. Now, not everyone can say that. In fact, not very many people can probably say that. But what a blessing if you can. But we don't get to choose. Now, that is one of the greatest blessings. I think it goes unrecognized that the Lord gives to adopted children. Adopted children very often feel unwanted, but then they get to experience something that is really not experienced by those of us who would call ourselves biological children. Other kids are just born into their families. Adopted kids have the amazing assurance to be able to go through life knowing, and I heard a guy say this a couple years ago and it really stuck with me. He told his friends, he goes, look, all of you were just born. Your parents had nothing to do with they didn't get to have any say-so. He goes, my parents chose me. So maybe that's for somebody today. The rest of us were just planted. And many of us have been uncomfortable with the way we were planted, or we didn't like where we were planted, or how we were planted, or when we were planted. But number one for your notes, write this down in permanent ink. God knows where to plant us in order for us to grow. Someone say He knows. He knows. Now, many of us can testify that it's not always pretty dirt. Can you? I know some of you and where you came up because you told me. On the contrary, sometimes the trials, the difficulties, and the hardships that we go through, it's just gritty. Just plain gritty, smelly, ugly mud. But in the story, the soil doesn't seem to be the problem for the tree's fruitlessness. It doesn't seem to be caused by the soil. And the reason I say that is because the owner is not upset about any of the other trees. Any of the other plants or trees. He said this tree right here. This one right here is the one he's complaining about. This is the one he singles out. Not because the soil wasn't any good, but because the tree's response to the soil was pitiful and inadequate and was totally unproductive. God plants us and leaves us room and gives us time to grow. And then He checks on us periodically, just like in the parable. He checks on us to monitor us and to see just how we're doing. I'm thankful that He does that. I'm thankful that He checks by progress because I'm very accountable when He's checking on me. Where are you, boy? And I'm like, I'm right here. Sometimes it's a good answer, sometimes it's not. But in this parable, He comes back again and again, year after year, and He doesn't expect to find what He finds. He's clearly disappointedly surprised at what He finds. He's obviously frustrated and running out of patience because He said, cut it down. He goes, this has been 3 years. This could be your family tree. I don't know. You mean after last year and the year before and the year before that, you're still fighting? Your marriage is still a battleground? It could be your family, and it could be the soil you were planted in. And the enemy wants that soil to ruin you. He wants you to look at where you are. Look at where you found yourself. And he keeps telling you, just accept your fate. Come to terms with your lot in life. 3 years and you're still in that kind of debt? Or in debt at all? Wait. Another 20 pounds? And the enemy laughs. Ha, ha, ha. He does. He'll throw some pills at you. He'll go, get on these meds. Oh, and he'll watch an infomercial. Oh, changed my life. I just take 5 now and 5 later and then 5. And he'll say, get on this medication. But you're going to have a new problem. So you need to take this one over here. Because one kind of jacks up the other one. And, you might need a third one. Depends. But it's not your fault. It's the soil. It's not your fault. It's the whole food industry in this country. We know it's the whole food supply is nutritionally deficient because the soil is full of chemicals. All the nutrients have been leached out. It is what it is. Accept your lot in life. It's not your fault. It's the soil. What's my point? Number 2, we have a tendency to blame our problems on the soil. Do we not?
Yeah.
But then God comes along and says, no. This soil's not meant to destroy you. I know you came up from some soil, man. He said it's not meant to destroy you. This soil's meant to make you grow. Other trees have been planted in the same soil, and it has forced them into a fruitful relationship with me. After all, look at the soil. Isn't it the same for the other tree that it is for you? I mean, it's the same economy. It's the same high gas prices. Same $12 burrito, same divorce, same bankruptcy, the same rejection, the same health crisis, the same tragedy, the same pain of losing someone they loved, the same. And it didn't cause those trees to wither and die. It actually caused the roots to go deeper and take hold, and it caused the branches to blossom with the fruit of the Spirit, budding and flourishing with love and joy and peace and patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and what else? Self-control. As the tree grows, so grows the fruit. It had to come up in the kind of soil that was difficult. That kind of fruit had to come up in soil that was not a cakewalk. Maybe God didn't need you to have a lot of help in that season of your life. Maybe a lot of friends right then and there was not going to produce the right kind of fruit and the right results in your life. There are some wonderful people I meet along the way, and I'm sure you do as well. People who've got some years behind them usually, people that have a grace about them and such a peace and a positive countenance. I'm talking, do you know these kind of people? They tend to be older. They tend to be in their second half of life. People who smile and encourage others and don't seem to be rattled by the ups and downs and vicissitudes of life. Do you know anybody like that? I marvel at elderly people because they tend to be one way or the other. They tend to have this grace about them, or I've known some real bitter, nasty ones too. And there's a difference. And I ask them, how do you do that? In this church, there are some wonderful saints, people you want to be around because their demeanor and the way they encourage people and the peace they have about them, no matter what's going on. Nothing seems to bother them too much. And I did highlight a few people because if you have a chance, you ought to sit down and have a longer talk with Grandpa Joe sometime. There were, Gary and Terry, you ought to talk to them sometime. See, ask them if they've been through anything. Avery, Lynn and Phil, Miss Michelle, Pastor Dave. There were actually more of this group in the first service because they tend to get up earlier and come to church earlier. But what I'm saying is ask them. These people, oh, so sweet, everything's so great. You ask them what they've been through. It will knock you on your tail just to know what? I can't believe it. Like you realize you're sitting next to a superstar, champion person who has been through stuff that maybe you couldn't even imagine. Yet God has brought them to a place of peace and a place of fruit. It's just marvelous. Anyway, the owner of the vineyard said, it's been 3 years. He goes, might as well cut the thing down. It's using up dirt. It's taking up sunlight, giving back nothing. We could throw it in the fire. At least we'll get some heat. At least it will produce a little bit of heat instead of producing nothing at all. And this is truly what I believe I was sent here to preach today. Not just because you want it, but because it can be, and I believe it will be your year. I believe with everything in me, this is your year. This is our year, guys. This is your year. And I believe we do have some say-so in that. Yes, God is sovereign, but He is a God who sent His Son, and His Son said, I came so you can have abundant life. What is abundant? When God says, I'm going to open up a window of heaven, let's just say, well, how big is that? You're going to have an abundant life. You know what I've realized? Abundant lives aren't compartmentalized. You don't have true abundance in one area and true lack and hardship in another area. There's something about the abundance of God that permeates every single area of our lives. This is our year. If you believe it, say, this is my year. Oh, say it again like you mean it. This is our year. There will be more in 24. And it is not lost on me, especially since Pastor Dave pointed it out last week, that this church is 3 years old. Kind of stopped me for a second. I don't know if I... But my assignment today is to tell you that this is your year. This is your year. I don't care how tired you are. And I know some people are worn out. All age people get worn out thinking, well, I might as well give up. I tried the church thing. I tried reading my Bible. I tried Christianity. I might as well try something else. Because it still seems like I'm caught in this cycle. It seems like here I am caught in the same place that I was last year, the same place I was the year before that, and I'm not seeing any fruit. And the enemy would like nothing better than to cut you down. And there is an enemy, and that is his goal. Yeah. But number 3, the title of the message today, in steps the vine dresser. His name is Jesus. Someone say vine dresser. Someone say Jesus. This is a message about Jesus. We think it's about us. All this time so far we're going, well, this message is about me. No, it's actually about the vine dresser. And you know it's Jesus. Because at the moment when it was almost lights out for the fig tree, I mean, it's over, right? He's like, toss the thing. He didn't even say, baby, you should, or I'm considering. He said, out of here. At that very moment, he steps in as mediator between the owner of the whole orchard and a tiny little tree. He steps in as the middleman, and he says to the master, and you know it's Jesus because the Bible says there is one God and one mediator between God and man. His name is Jesus. And he says to the master, sir, let it alone. Let it alone. I know the tree has done you wrong. I know the tree has not done what it was planted to do. I know you got a problem with the tree, but you don't have to suffer the little tree any longer. He said, put it on me. Let me do what I do. Let me work with it a little while longer. And he tells him what he's going to do. He says, I'll take the curse that should have been put on that tree. Instead of hanging the little tree out to dry, I'll hang on a big tree and I'll die. I'll take it. I'll take its little fig tree in a vineyard, green leaf, no fruit, messed up life, and everything it represents. And I'll honor you. Because I know how to make it grow. I know how to save it. And notice what he asks. He makes one request. He says, Master, just give me another year. Just give me a year. Church, the enemy is lying to people everywhere. I'm so sick of it. There's nothing but lies in him. You don't belong here. You don't belong in this vineyard. You don't need to put down roots. No. Stupid soil. You look fine with no figs. Who even likes figs, right? I mean, who even likes figs? I do too, but a lot of people don't. I mean, you know, who needs people pulling on them, trying to pull off the fruit, taking everything that's yours? Why should someone else tell you what kind of fruit you should be, what kind of tree you should even be? Why should anyone tell you that? Give it up. Quit. Doesn't matter in the end. I'm telling you, it is not time to quit. Not more importantly, God's telling you, it's not time to quit. It's not time to fold up your tent or throw in the towel or raise up your hands and walk off the court, stomp off all mad and go try something else for a little while. It is not time to trash the tree. Remember, you're the tree. It ain't time to trash the tree. This is a year of fruitfulness. This is the year of breakthrough, what I call beaucoup baskets. Beaucoup, whatever, that's French, right? Beaucoup. It means a lot. It means it comes up and goes over. This is a year you submit yourself to the vine dresser, if you will, and as a result, you find yourself free from that thing that's been plaguing you. And everybody's got them. God said, behold, I make everything new. He said all things. He didn't say, I make some things new. I'm pretty good at restoration and refurbishment on the old classic car. No, he said, I make everything new. You are a new creature. You are a creature with a new feature. It's Jesus. You are the head and not the tail. You are above and not beneath. You are meant to be. You are meant to be. The vine dresser is getting involved at this point because God's not done with you. He's not giving up on you. And I want to read this to you. It's just something, it wasn't part of the sermon, but he gave it to me this morning in my quiet time, and it's 2 Corinthians 4:16. It's not in your notes. Listen to me. He said, that's why we never give up. Though our bodies are dying, our spirits are being renewed every day. For our present troubles are small and won't last very long, yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. So we don't look at the troubles we can see now, like the soil that we can see now, and the burrs and the gravel and the stuff that we can see now. Rather, we fix our gaze on things that we cannot see, things that cannot be seen, like the fruit that isn't there yet. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see, like the fruit that you will bear, will last forever, God says. Those are the things we focus on. We don't walk by sight, we walk by faith. Faith is about things we don't see yet, the things that we don't see. So could a tree that didn't bear fruit one year bear giant fruit the next year? Absolutely. What if God told you? What if God told you this is your last year to fix this? That's a sobering thought. I almost erased it. What if he said this is your last year to fix this? What if he said this is your last year to get real with me? I mean, seriously, get real and get right and have a rich existence with a whole lot of fruit. To get serious about enjoying your life and receiving my blessing. I'm giving you one more year to change things and enjoy your life in the soil that I've planted you in. Not the soil you wish you had or the soil someone else you know had. I'm talking about the soil that you're in. I'm coming back. He said, I'm coming back, and I don't want to find you defeated and depleted and discouraged. I guess this isn't the most positive message for a happy new year. Maybe. I think it is, though. Because, and I also don't think for 1 second that you're hearing this message by accident. This is your year. This is your year. I know some people feel like how can it be? Look around. They feel like it's never going to change. It's never going to change. Oh, it's been this way. I'm never going to get free from that dependency or that addiction or that dysfunction that's in my own house. I know how you feel. I know there's people that feel like their marriage is never going to turn around. Or like your health or your weight or your emotions are never going to get in shape. But I heard a word from the Lord this last week. I really believe it. And you know what the word was? It's for the whole year. See, last year's word was solid, if any of you remember that. And I'm really happy to report to you that I feel like we really did come a long way last year as a church. And then, as the church goes, so go individuals as well. But we got our women's ministry going really strong. We have a mighty prayer force that makes sure the prayers go up and a faithful God who makes sure that the blessings come down. We have Pastor Dave and our deacons and a team of deacons who are all servant leaders and under shepherds who help lead this local body of believers. It's all part of becoming solid so that we can do what God's called us to do. We have just inaugurated our first official board of advisors, which I'm very excited about. And those members will be publicly introduced to you in a very short time. We've started our discipleship group with the orientation class and ongoing weekly Bible studies, and more things are coming. Just a quick report for you. In a couple of weeks, we'll kick off our newest round of home groups, which we already talked about. Small groups, so we can keep the growth going and the fruitfulness going throughout the year, because Sundays are not enough. We have a big worship team and a holy fire choir that I will go to any mountaintop with, anytime. If I don't have a mountain, one will pop up when you worship with this team. And they usher us into God's presence every week, and there's not a hint of junk. I've heard in church circles for years that, drama follows worship teams. There's always so much drama. Nope. None of it. Zero. I mean, their hearts are to worship God. It's not a performance. We're not vying for position. It's just literally an outpouring of love and adoration for God. And man, it's just awesome. We have a small staff and a large team of volunteers, a large team for the size of our church, who show up and they serve their brothers and sisters and they honor the risen Lord. And we got more things planned to share with you for the coming year. Somebody say solid. Oh, somebody really say it like you mean it. Come on, help me out. Help me preach. We're solid, but we're still under construction. But that's last year's word. What's this year's word? Anybody? Abundance. Good one. What was the other one? Not abundance. Fruit. Fruit's the word. I believe that's the word for the year number 4 for your notes. Now, I know we spent a whole series on this. We did like 7 or 8 weeks if you're here on fruit of the Spirit, acts of the flesh versus fruit of the Spirit, and how we get rid of the one and embrace the other, and that God would bear fruit. But the series and the whole year of talking about it was to understand it. This year is to grow it. This year is to grow it on a solid foundation. Listen to this, Matthew 7:15. A good tree produces good fruit, and a bad tree, guess what it produces? Bad fruit, yes. A good tree can't produce bad fruit. And a bad tree can't produce good fruit. This is what I'm talking about, the goodness of God, how it permeates every area of your life. Abundant life doesn't just mean you just have success in one area and you're a train wreck in all the others. Or maybe I got a couple of things going right here, but then these areas don't look. I just leave that alone. It's just a mess. It's in my family bloodline. It's just not going to change because it's genetic. That's a lie. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. So every tree that does not produce good fruit is chopped down and thrown into the fire. Now wait, this is in Matthew. This isn't the story that we're talking about today. This is not the same parable, but it's the same concept. He said everyone that doesn't produce good fruit is chopped down, thrown into the fire. Yes, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit, so you can identify people by their actions. And it will get better. Hear me. It will get better. I don't know who's feeling like it's not, but it will get better. It will turn around. It's called a heavenly turnaround. It's called divine reversal. It will turn around from heaven down to earth, from bad to good. Amen. From good to better. From better to great. Yes, we have ups and downs, but on the whole, God is going from glory to glory, from mountain to mountain. But it's going to require something of us. This is important. From you. To whom much is given, much will be required. You cannot just go through this year like every other year before it and expect a different outcome. You got to trust God on a whole new level. You got to trust God on an entirely new level. You have to take Him at His word. To take Him at His word, you probably got to know His word. Oh, you got to read His word. It's in here. It's in your Bible. It's in between the covers. We got to get down into the Word of God and know what He said and know what His promises are. If you can believe, you can have amazing growth in crummy soil, even soil like we have now. We have some soil. We got viruses. We got war, multiple countries. We have dirty politics and crazy biased media, and inflation and attacks on the family and on gender. Even in crummy soil, you can have a great year. Jesus said, I know what I'm doing in the vineyard. I know what I'm doing. If you'll give me that year, there are 2 things I'm going to do specifically for this tree to survive and bring forth fruit. He's telling you, I got to dig around you and I got to dung around you. I got to dig around you and I got to put some fertilizer. I know. I thought about calling the sermon dig it and dung it, but I thought it might not play right. But let's talk about those 2 things for a second. Digging around it means tearing up the environment all around you, even below the surface. It's not scratching, pulling a couple of weeds. It's digging the soil. That's what a plow does. It plows, crumbles, breaks up the soil around you, even below the surface. I would say especially below the surface. So Jesus says, I'm going to plow around you. Because some of you have become callous. Some of you used to be really nice and caring, but somewhere along the way you became a little bit uncaring when it came to other people. Or maybe some of us have become arrogant or hardened or self-centered. So nothing comes out and those roots are down there, but they're not absorbent. They're not sucking anything up. You just become rigid. So I'm going to plow the ground around you and where you're planted. And as the rains come and it gets down in there, it's going to soften you up and it's going to allow you to get a new kind of food in this crunched up soil. We got to dig deep. Dig deep. Number 5, digging. Is that number 5?
That is number 5, yes.
Okay. Did we already say what it was? Tear up the environment all around you, even below the surface, okay? Talking about the soil. It's amazing the resources that are at your disposal. They're there. God put everything of value that we need right here on earth. And I use some natural examples like coal in the mountains that keep us warm. Oil to lubricate machinery and provide fuel. Gold to back up our currency, and diamonds to bless our queens. Everything we need, it's all here. He just put it in places where lazy people can't get to it. That's why they have to dig. That's why there's mines. That's where there's tunnels. That's why people go down for the precious gems. People who are not willing to dig will not have change for living their faith at a different level. People have to come to a place where they say, look, I'm not going into another year the same way I went into the last 3 years. I'm not doing it. Have you ever just reached I'm not doing it? Have you ever reached a point of resolve where you know God was speaking to you, go, I've done it. I'm not doing it again. I did it last year, the year before, and I said I was going to do it last year, but I didn't do it last year. I went in the same way as the other 2 years. This is a new year. Man, this is Jesus. This is God. Listen to Luke 6:46. He said, why do you keep calling me Lord when you don't do what I say? He said, I'll show you what it's like when someone does come to me and they do listen to my teaching and then they follow it. It's like a person building a house who does what, you guys? Look at there, right there. No, what does it say? I want 2 syllables from everybody in the tent. It's like a person building a house who? Thank you. And lays a foundation on solid rock. When the floodwaters rise and break against that house, it stands firm because it is well built, because they dug deep. I found a fascinating example. It's a baseball example, but I got to share it with you. There's a man named George Shotgun Shuba. And he played in the major leagues for the Dodgers in the 1953 World Series. They called him Shotgun because he just, every time he got up to the plate, man, he would knock that ball. It was said that he could walk in cold, Caleb. He could walk totally cold and just pop a line drive in any area of the field. He was just that good. And he was the first National League pitcher to ever hit a home run in the World Series. And one of the announcers was watching. It was just so beautiful, he said. His swing is just a beautiful thing to watch, just as natural as a smile. And that became a catchphrase, natural as a smile. Here he comes, natural as a smile. And he's like, why do people keep saying that? Oh, because the announcer said that for you when you came up to bat and you hit that line drive. He said, just natural as a smile. He said, he really said that? He goes, yeah. He goes, wow. Took the reporter over to his house later on, and he said to him, let me show you the real part of my life. He took the reporter down into his basement, and he showed him his secret. He had hung a string down from the ceiling, and it had some knots in it, and it hung there. And he had a special bat that he had drilled out toward the end. He drilled out a core and added some lead, so it would be heavier than a regular bat. And he would hit that string in certain places where there were knots, and he would hit it with the bat. And he said, I swung a 44-ounce bat 600 times every night, all winter long. 4,200 times a week during the winter months. 47,200 swings every winter. Just a natural, he said. And nothing natural about it, friend. And he was applauded, and this is the point, he was applauded for what he did in the public arena, in the public stadium, but he was rewarded for what he did down deep in the basement, in private, when nobody was around. Swing after swing after swing. God should get some praise for that, because these are God's principles. Man, you guys, when nobody was looking, he dug deep. You pick up this book and you read it, and this book will read you. I said it before, dusty Bibles lead to dirty lives. You dig deep into what God said. Dig deep into his plan for your life. Dig deep into your quiet time. And if you don't know what I'm talking about quiet time, a good place to start is have some. What is it? It was when everything's quiet and no one's around except you and God. Get into it. Dig deep into your church. Get in it. And I hope it's this one. But if it's not, find one where you can get up in the morning and get into church and serve and pray and fellowship and rub elbows with one another, and find out just how natural it is to have a faith that believes in the vine dresser and in his work in your life. Dig deep, you guys. Dig deep. Listen, if everybody's rolling out of bed on Sunday morning and pausing with the remote, pause the remote, and just asking each other, hey, we going to go to church this morning? You ain't digging real deep. God said, listen, if you don't want that again, we got to do something completely different. Give me control of your time. Control. Not just some time, but control of it. It's a whole different thing. Give me control of your social life. Let me pick your friends. How about that? Let me decide where you go and where you don't go, and when you go and when you don't go, and who you're with and who you don't, and the money that you spend and the places that you go. Give me a place of greater priority in your life. Give it to me. You know how you get more in God's economy? Someone shouted it out in first service. I'm such a schoolboy. First period. You know how you get more in God's economy? Anybody? You give. And you know the verse by heart. We talked about it. Given it shall be given unto you. Good measure, shaken down, running over. You get it all. Pressed down. But it's sowing and reaping. If you don't have enough time, you give God some time. And all of a sudden, you have openings in your schedule. I read a book once, I'll never forget it. It said, too busy not to pray. You don't have enough time. You give God some time, He'll redeem it. You don't have enough friends in your life. You start creating a space to be a friend to other people. And all of a sudden, he who becomes a friend starts to have many friends. For some of you, God's saying, this is the year you give me control of your finances. Give it to me. 10% of everything you got. As a starting point, bring it. But God, I always like this. People think, you know what I could do with 10% of everything? And God's like, you know what I could do with it? Yeah. God does amazing things. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about prosperity gospel. I'm talking about obedience gospel. Yeah. That's the gospel that God, give me your marriage. But you both have to do it because you vowed that the two would become one. It takes two. So both of you as one couple seek my face and lay that marriage right on the altar, and you change it and watch me change it from no fruit to good fruit. Dig deep into worship. Dig deep into your prayer life. Dig deep into the idea that God can interrupt you anytime He wants. And it should be a welcome interruption. Isn't that how we want to live? Invite God to do it. But I got my list. I got my schedule. I got my calendar. And it's just right. I got no room for nothing. And God busts in and we get frustrated. No, God, come on. Tear it to pieces. I got a schedule, but it's man-made. I sat there and made my schedule, and I resent sometimes when God sends other things. So I'm just saying, we ought to get used to it. We ought to invite God to mess up our plans anytime. As long as it's Him, we'll be okay. There's something about the first of the year, and it's tied to first fruits, that if you'll get in alignment with God and give Him your best and let Him interrupt your normal routine, He will take you to new places and He will bring you new fruit like you've never known. Give Him 1 year. You probably gave the devil a whole lot more than that. Or is that just me? No. I give the devil a lot of room, a lot of years. Give him this year. You know, you tore yourself up all the time. Now let God tear up everything around you. Let Him till the soil so He can bring forth real fruit. I got to get to the other part. He talked about digging, but let's talk about the other part. He said, I'm going to dig you and I'm going to dung you. I'm going to fertilize you. Put fertilizer around it. It's manure. It takes guts to say, God, dig me and fertilize me. Bandini. Dung plays a role. How many have been through some dung? But it's, how many? Twice. You know, it does play a role because God grows beautiful things in stinky places. What a holy sermon. Here's the dung part. It's the disgusting ingredients that God uses to bring miracle growth. It is. Fertilizer is manure in your notes, number 6. Disgusting ingredients that brings miracle growth. The very thing that is most repulsive in your life. You know there's some stuff that's so obnoxious you don't even want to talk to God about it. It's just foul. It just stinks to even get in the same vicinity. And that's stuff that we've walked through in our life. And it might be exactly what God shovels around the fruitless tree in order to bring new life. Fertilizer is not pleasant. It can make you retch and gag. You go through things that stink to high heaven, but God said, I'm not going to waste that. I'm not going to waste it. Don't lock it away and bury it and act like it never happened and never work your way through it. I don't want to waste it. He said, that's miracle grow. I'm going to use it as fertilizer. It's valuable. And don't give up, because people do give up. And they give up at the time when God's going to do the greatest things in their life if they would just persevere with faith. They quit. Because when God starts upsetting the soil and disrupting and turning over the dirt in our lives, the same soil we've been blaming for our problems, then He starts throwing on the fertilizer that stinks and burns and attracts flies. We don't like it. Such an uplifting New Year's message, Pastor Bret. It is, though. Because what's the alternative? Same thing. That's not uplifting. I don't want that. I don't think any of us want that. Go around again the same way? Let's do another year and not have any change, not have any fruit. No, God grows beautiful things in some rough places. And just a quick Bible references before I close. When you're in the fiery furnace, we know about the furnace, right? The furnace is a place that's very uncomfortable, and it's almost impossible to believe that anything good can come out of that furnace when it burns so bad and you're in agony. But Job said, the Lord knows the way that I take, and after he has tried me or fired me, I'll come forth like gold. I love that. After he's dug around me and churned up the soil, I'll come forth as gold. It's during the smelliest times that we have to hang on in faith and believe that better days will come. Did Job quit when he lost everything? Anybody? No. Did Joseph quit when he was cast out of luxury into a prison on a phony rape charge? We don't talk about, we talked about he ran and left his coat behind in Potiphar's wife. He was charged with rape of the queen for the most part. I mean, that was it. And he had to get back into a prison. Did he quit? No. Did Jonah quit down in the smelly belly of the fish where he became a giant fish taco? No. Not after the first day, not after the second day, not after the third day. He did not quit. Did Peter quit when he let down his best friend, God's only begotten son, the Savior of the world? We talked about him last week. Did he quit?
No.
No. Did Paul quit when he was blinded or shipwrecked or snake bit or beaten with rods over and over again, persecuted and imprisoned? No. Everybody say no. You can't say it enough. No. God had bigger things planned for all five of these people that we just talked about. He wasn't through with Job or Joseph or Jonah or Peter or Paul, and he's certainly not through with you or me. We're praying. I'm praying for an epic year. And I feel like the bigger our prayers, the more God smiles. I really do. We think, well, I don't know if I can go into that. That's really a bold prayer. I don't know if I can ask for that. God loves it. He's like, yes, pray, believe me. Believe more than what you can understand. Believe more than what you can see. I think he's saying, now you're getting it. Job gained back twice what he lost. Joseph ended up the second most powerful man in Egypt, saved his entire family from withering and dying, and saved an entire race of people with whom God would tell his story and bring forth the Savior. It's amazing. Jonah prayed inside the fish. I cried out to the Lord in my great trouble, and he answered me. I called to you from the land of the dead, and Lord, you heard me. He got coughed right up out of his smelly situation right onto a beach. Peter got an overhaul and a restoration and a new beginning and a new job. And Paul wrote well over half the New Testament, in which he wrote this, Philippians 3:8. He said, doubtless, I count all things but loss. And what he's saying, if you know the stories, I had everything, education, money, notoriety, authority. I had everything, and I lost everything for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ Jesus, my Lord. But you know what? All that I suffered, had, and lost, you know what I count it? What does it say? Come on, yell it out. You're in church. Yeah, he said, I count all that as dung. Because in comparison to what God gives me for all the stuff that I thought was so valuable, I count it all but dung that I may win Christ. Does anybody besides me feel like God is just tilling up the ground all around us? He's just tilling up the ground. There's seeds ready. There's water ready. There's stuff being crunched and disrupted around us. It's not so comfortable. But what will your story be? What will your fruit look like? Thank you, Audrey. That's exactly the right answer.
God can take the stinky manure and take it turn to make a masterpiece.
Boom! Yes, absolutely. Without a doubt. Not to think so is not to know God. But he wants us to get serious. He wants to know, you mean business this year? You mean business with me? Are you talking about, you don't like this? Are you ready to make the commitment to me this year? What does it look like? I don't know. Different for all of us, but it's further. Yeah. It's further than it was. Are you ready? Do you really mean business in your heart of hearts? So we can take those pockets that stink, that have been messed up for way too long, that have been the same over and over, and fix them, clean them, grow them, That's God's plan, you guys. Number 20, the last thing in the bottom, all those blank. If you believe it, this is my year. That's it. Write it down. Permanent ink, and let's pray.